So all of these things. So cigars were one of the main instruments that were used during the slave trade as a way of money, and so it just transcended over time to where we are now. And so the lifestyle of a cigar smoker is about patience, it's about appreciation, and it's about storytelling. You know, that's what we do here. It's not about the stick. It's really about the connection that we make with people and the stories that are told. And so, you know, and from those stories, there's a relaxation and there's a sense of community that is naturally built when you have people who are cigar smokers. Cigar smoking is also transgenerational. It doesn't matter. The young people don't. There's not a young people's cigar table. I mean, we all sit here together and we enjoy a stick. So when we're talking about the cigar culture, it goes past cigarette smoking. So you say, hey man, give me a stick. You light a cigarette. You spend about 5 to 8 minutes smoking a cigarette. You put it out, and then you go about your business. But as far as sitting around traditionally with cigar smoking, the Indians would talk with the different settlers that they were trading with. They would have a smoke traditionally. They would probably smoke either the pipe or tobacco, and they would talk about their travels. And this is how a lot of cultures expanded, because once, you know, the Europeans come and they bring spices to the Indians, and the Indians trade spices with the Europeans, and then you get in cult, you get in it. The UK now has curry, and they have all these different things, and it's all through, you'd be surprised, but all through a cigar smoke session where you have guys from different areas who are connecting and storytelling, and from the storytelling, you end up having a culture or a community expansion happen. So, so that's kind of the history behind it. Present day, it's similar the same way. It becomes a way of a group of men or women, group of people, like-minded, kind of get together, and we kind of give each other what we need during that time. I'm a member of a cigar club, me and my brother Chaz here, called the Smoke Brothers of Baltimore. And so being new to the area, it was very nice to be able to sit down with some brothers. I don't know the area. I don't know a lot of things that are going on in Baltimore. These guys it's transgenerational. These guys will sit and talk to you, and they teach you about what you need to know, where you need to go, and then you start to feel more confident about the area that you're living in, and you build a sense of community within the group. And so we, as a cigar group, we shared that within the community by doing community service at a school, or it's handing out turkeys during the holidays, or collecting toys for kids, all from the cigar, right? So now we're talking about cigars. We talked about the culture. We're talking about the cigar. So this is a Gordo cigar, right? And so the Gordo Robusto of the cigar, these are not the names, but and so all of these things, coffee, spirits, cigars, they all equal relaxation. They all are things that are done in a community amongst people who, you know, you have an affinity for, right? So that's what the main purpose of smoking cigars. So let's get into the tools of the trade, right? So the first tool that I will present to you would be a V cutter, right? So this helps with, when you cut a cigar with a V cutter, put the cigar cap inside, coming down. It creates a wedge inside of the cap, the wrapper, and the filler. So this is how you can control the amount of smoke that you have with the gauge, which is the ring size of the cigar, right? So if you have a larger ring size cigar, like the El Jefe, which I should not have smoked today because I would have been able to show you. Those type of cigars with a 60 or 70 gauge ring, which will be about that big, you want to punch those because they will produce a lot of smoke, and you want to be able to control the smoke because it's more tobacco. One other thing I'd like to tell you about the size of the ring size of the cigar. Contrary to popular belief, the smaller the ring gauge on the cigar, which he has is called a Lucero, the stronger the cigar is. I know it may look because the bigger is always better, isn't that right? That's what they say. But in this case, not so fast. Right, okay. So, as I said, in the sense of having a 70er gauge, you would use a punch, which basically takes a core out of the cap and out of the fuller, and it creates a little small hole so you can control the flow of smoke that you have. Okay? Finally, we'll get to what they call the guillotine. Sally, put your finger in there. So, there have been tales of pirates and different, Civil War men as a means of gaining information. You could put your pinky in there, and if it's strong enough, it will cut your finger off, right? So the guillotine is used on the medium to smaller size cigars because, again, you want to be able to control the smoke and you want to be able to control the burning. So I've been smoking this cigar for a while now, and I've had it down for a while, but it should be still lit based on the air here and the wind we have, and so it may be out. But with the guillotine, you can control, it's another way of controlling the smoke flow. You got a question? Oh, okay. So the thing that I would like to make sure that you understand about using these tools is that they're just tools for you to cut the cigar. So you don't want to cut your cigar when you're using the guillotine. You never want to cut below the cap line, which is here. This would be your cap line. So if you can see this is too much. This is the cap line, right? So the reason you don't want to do this is because when you cut below the cap line, the wrapper was going to come off. You're going to deconstruct the cigar. So what you want to do is you just want to have a crest, just the tip, right? That's what she said. But just the tip, probably about 1/4 of an inch. You kind of want to have like a half moon, kind of like a half moon, and you just want to get the cap and just to get the airflow. This is really about airflow, and it's about preserving the flavor of the cigar because you don't want to cut too much in, and you want to preserve the construction of the cigar as well, right? So if you cut it too deep, that's what you're going to end up with. So we already talked about our tools. We talked about our history behind the smoking. So let's get into a cut, right? So on this cigar, I'm going to use a V cut. So I'm going to take my V cut. I'm going to press it firmly up against the back of the cap, and I'm going to simply execute a cut. So as you can see, not only did it go through the cap, it also went through the filler while the cap is on, man. The cap is on the camera, man. And so it goes through the cap, the filler, which is going to make for a nice draw, and we'll be able to control the smoke with a V cut. Your favorite cut? Understood. So as we go through, now we get to the point where it's cut. Now we want to light it, right? One thing about storing a cigar. What do you think? Should you cut a cigar and store it, or should you keep it intact and then cut it right before you light it? What do you think? Cut it right before you light it. Oh yeah? Exactly. Why would you want to do that? Why would you think that's the proper way to do it? You're right, exactly. Right. You want to control the moisture, right? Because without a Vita pack or the moisture in the cigars, what helps it burn properly and for you to get the full experience. All right. So now we're going to get to lighting a cigar. There are numerous ways to light a cigar because in the beginning of the presentation, it's all about your preference. It's all about you having fun, right? So one way is with a torch. A torch, right? So there's this blue flame is burned extremely high, and it burns into our filler, lighting our cigar properly and keeping it burned. We also can use a cedar plank. This is a cedar plank, right? So if you don't have access to a torch, you can use a cedar plank. And so what happens with this is you just have a little, and this is going to get from the UK. You're learning. We are here to teach you. There's no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone. The judges have all left. They're just witnesses here. Ain't that right, Sally? They're just witnesses here. And so in doing so, this is where you build and we create the community that we want, and we're able to go out into the communities here. That's why it's so important, I feel like, for Gambians to smoke cigars, because one, cigars, tobacco has a rich African history. In Cameroon, there's one that's really good from Cameroon and such. But also, I think it's a great way for like-minded individuals to build the community so that all the boats rise. As you notice, for our cigar week, we're spending time eating at Moe's, New York, the vegan spot. We're going around the city. Silver Platter is on the list. So this is all from cigar smoking. And so it begs the conversation piece that it is clearly beyond just the cigar smoke. It's about building a sense of community and togetherness. And so it becomes a ritual, if you will. It's more of a ritual and a wellness package for anybody who wants to relax and get to know, new people, new ideas, new things, right? So final thoughts here are just to recap the lighting of the smoke of the cigar is, we have our footer, our head, we did our cut, we used our tools, we have our lighter, we are paired with this is a rum, is that right? Goes well, especially a dark rum, goes very well with the richness of the cigar flavor. So when you get to the next level and you're starting to taste the flavors of the cigar, most of them have an earthy walnut flavor. The sweeter cigars, that would be like a Tatiana, they may be infused. So infused is where you take the filler tobacco and you kind of spray it with an oil, kind of like the black seed oil or the lemongrass oil. And as it dries, it produces a flavor. But that's very different than an aromatized process, whereby you would take like the La Creme, whereby you take a barrel of maybe whiskey, you fill it with coffee beans, and you place the cigars inside of the coffee beans, which is not infused because we haven't done anything to the filler inside of the cigar. However, because tobacco was a living thing, it absorbs the aroma from whatever container that it's held in, right? And so that's another way of characterizing and accenting your cigar. The final thing is about storage of cigars, So when you want to store a cigar, you want to keep moisture moisture control is the most important part. So they have these things, Vita packs, right? Vita pack is your best friend. One of the questions that I often get from new cigar smokers is, do you need a humidor? No. So these Bovita packs, they have a moisture on them. Like this one is 69%. So ideally, you want to keep your cigars at about 70 degrees and 70% humidity, right? So you may adjust that based on the amount of cigars and the size of the cigar. So if you got a huge humidor and you've got hundreds of cigars, you may want to be a little lower than 70%. If you just have a small case like Greg has, he could just use he could get away with just using a 70% a little small pack like this, right? To keep them moisturized, and that would make them light longer and stay lit longer.
How long does those packs last? So, like Greg has that one, right? He uses one for how long?
It really depends on the situation, the conditions that it's in. But roughly, they usually last between maybe about 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And what happens is, they'll dry out. Okay? But here's a quick tip. If you don't want to buy another one, which you really should buy another one from right here at Mega Legend Cigars. But if you're away and you can't buy another one, what you can do is you can take this Vita pack and you can wrap it in a wet paper towel, place the paper towel with this inside of it into a Ziploc bag, and it will rehydrate. It will rehydrate. Huh?
Like you traveling and you don't have money.
Yeah. So I would,
I have some drivers
So I hope that you all are a little bit more familiar with cigars and cutting and lighting. If there are any questions or any stories that you would like to tell about your cigar experiences, now would be the perfect time for such a story.
Well, I never realized until John really got into the cigar company how people were so connected to cigars. And it really was fascinating to see because you got people from all walks of life that come together and have conversations together all around cigars.
Absolutely. It really is. It's beautiful, and I think that it's not really talked about as much as it should be, because in this day and age there's not a lot of things that people can. This is a divisive time right now. Very divisive time, and so there's not a lot of things that people can connect on. And I think cigars is a wonderful vice, if you will, to have that would allow that to happen. But that pretty much concludes the cut and light. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. And